Okay, so in order to really understand the value of technology and digitalizations in shipping, I think it's really important that you have a basic understanding of the commercial shipping market. For those of you that are obviously already working in a chartering, shipbroking, vessel operations, or port focused role, you'll know this already. So you can brush over, skip this episode if you like. But really, it's going to focus on high level overview of the key pillars, I think, that are involved in commercial shipping. And when I say pillars, I mean the verticals of kind of functions. So the first one we have is the ship owner themselves. So ship owner or ship manager. They could own one vessel, they could own 10, they could own a fleet of 300 vessels. The ship owners can be individual family members. They might be a conglomerate of kind of investors, or they could be just a company that has been set up to specifically to own and manage vessels. So the ships they will own in the commercial shipping space are mainly going to be of a size of around sort of, let's call it 10,000 dead weight and above. They can carry certain types of cargoes. They're not kind of classed as the coaster sort of or barge type of vessels you see regularly on rivers, that type of thing. They're generally going to be the larger vessels that traverse the oceans and the seas regularly to carry a variety of cargoes. So the main markets within the commercial shipping space and the cargoes they carry are either the tanker market, dry cargo markets, the gas, so that could be LNG, LPG, which is liquid natural gas and liquid petroleum gas, liquefied petroleum gas, sorry. And also the container markets, which obviously we all know, and you see the containers on the back of lorries and the very large container vessels within ports. So they are the three main, I'd say, the largest kind of commercial shipping type of vessels. You also get chemical tankers and a variety of other vessels. But if you step away from commercial shipping, you've also got things like cruise liners, obviously fishing vessels, yachts, luxury yachts, that type of thing. And there are a lot of technology businesses and digital shipping companies that also cover those markets. We won't dive too much into that right now. We'll just focus on the commercial shipping stuff. So primarily the three main markets are tankers, so it's oil tankers, and that can be kind of crude or clean kind of types of cargo. So whether the oil has been treated already, or whether it's just completely upstream straight from the source and is being transported, hasn't had any kind of refinement to it or anything. It can be dry cargo, which I mentioned, and that is primarily anything that's not wet, really, a non-liquid. And mainly when you look at the commercial shipping vessels, you're looking at cargoes such as coal, wheat, iron ore, grain, fertilizers, steel, that type of thing that can fit in large holes essentially and be carried without getting wet. So they can be just offloaded in one port, loaded in one port and discharged into another. You will get, as I mentioned, container vessels, obviously, which carry a whole variety of goods. It could be anything, cars. It can be obviously toys, manufactured products, anything that you can think of. The other segment, which I haven't mentioned, is kind of the specialized market, like reefers, so refrigerated vessels, like orange juice carrying vessels, those type of things. There's lots of different types of ships, car carriers, ro-ros, a whole variety. But again, mainly the three markets to kind of be kind of aware of, I would say, and that the most of the maritime technology businesses are selling to are normally the tanker market, the dry cargo, and the container liners, primarily. That's the type of vessels that the clients all own. So those ship owners themselves, they may want to manage their ships themselves as well. So they have a team that'll be liaising day to day with either the charterers, who I'll talk about in a moment, making sure the vessel is where it should be and at certain times. And they'll make sure they have the crew in place and the vessel is very much meeting the regulations of their classification society to make sure that it can basically trade legally and safely. So they will be doing that. If they want to just literally own the vessel and let somebody else manage the ship, the day-to-day kind of operations of the vessel, the technical, the maintenance, they can outsource it, and a ship management business can effectively run that for them. Yeah, they'll be making their money through charter rates. So whoever wants to kind of essentially transport a cargo from A to B will either hire their vessel on a voyage basis, a kind of spot fixing the vessel, basically from A to B around the world, whether they want to need a ship to move. And that can be very effective if you're a ship owner, if perhaps the market rates are not great on a long-term time charter. Maybe they may opt for a more kind of shorter, quicker sort of routing to try and maximize profitability, basically. And also, it might just be the fact that there's more cargoes in certain areas where it's close to where the vessel is, so it makes more sense to fix shorter voyages rather than committing to a very long time charter. And that's the second option. It is the TCP sort of route, where you essentially hire out your vessel for, it can be anything, I know, a month, 3 months, a year, it can be multi-years if you have a long charter. And they would hire their ship out either to a commodity trader and maybe another ship management company that just wants to sort of charter that vessel, and they can run it effectively. And they will receive a charter rate per day. So it could be anything from, I don't know, $1,000 a day, which is extremely low, or it could be in the busy markets for the large or the great markets, it could be up to $100,000 a day for the kind of Cape-sized vessels back in 2006, that sort of time. So a huge variety of kind of a fluctuation in rates and charter party rates. And the whole industry monitors these daily hire rates very, very closely to see what's happening in the market. And the ship owner themselves will be very focused on what is happening in the market. Like, am I getting the best rate for my vessel? Like, is this profitable? Is it covering my expenses? Should I have chosen another route? Should I have chartered my vessel out to a different charterer? Maybe that charter is not reputable. Maybe they're under sanctions or something. So it's lots and lots of intricacies that go into managing the vessel. And again, this is where the digital shipping side comes in, because lots of different maritime software providers have solutions for different aspects of how a ship owner basically operates their vessel. So I'll go into it in later lessons, but essentially a ship owner can speak to get data insights about what's happening in the market, what's happening with cargo movements from a variety of platform providers out there, data reporting analysts and editors. So they can subscribe to those data solutions. They can look at different software platforms and monitor their vessels around the world. They can get analysis on the best, most efficient route and the most profitable route that they can choose for the vessel. They can also see which route has the lowest kind of carbon footprint, how it's going to affect their bunkers and their fuel consumption. So much technology at their fingertips if they want to, and if they're kind of motivated to use, which is fantastic. So that's enough on the role of a ship owner. Essentially, they've got a variety of vessels, many dry cargo, tanker or containers, and they'll be making money out of their vessel either on a time charter basis, so kind of a fixed, almost like renting a property in houses. So you rent out your house for 12 months or so. So somebody comes in, uses that house, or lives in the house essentially. Or you do the spot rate, where maybe it's a bit like a kind of Airbnb, a short stay for a certain period, if you want to put it in those sort of layman terms. But really interesting. And the other area we'll talk about is shipbrokers. So this is my kind of background and my kind of passion and my real sort of introduction to shipping. And the shipbrokers will be speaking daily, or the good ones and the hungry ones will be speaking daily to ship owners or charterers, telling them about what's happening in the market, what's the sort of depending on their role. If they're a chartering shipbroker, they will be telling the ship owners and advising on the best charter party rates. They will know what other vessels have fixed at, in the market. So they'll be guiding them, getting updates and saying that this vessel's fixed for this rate. I think we should perhaps fix your vessel at this rate or whatever. They will be negotiating on behalf of the ship owner with the other charterers. And they will be advising. So the role of a shipbroker is a really popular one. Throughout my whole time at Clarkson's in particular, so many graduates, so many people in their early career want to become a shipbroker. They think it's a really kind of glamorous and highly rewarding profession, which definitely is, and it really can be. But it's a lot of hard work. You are hunting all the time. There's lots of competition. You're basically selling yourself. You want a variety of kind of end users and customers to like you, to trust you, to basically choose you over a whole line of other brokers vying for that business. And you have to be on it all the time with the best information. And again, it comes down to reputation. So shipbroker is a little bit like a middleman, essentially. You are the one that has got your ear to the ground, understanding what happens in the market all the time, what impacts the market. And in particular, my background was a sale and purchase shipbroking. So we were involved with the actual sale or purchase of the vessel. We were the middleman. So, for example, if a ship owner wanted to buy a ship, we would have that relationship with them. We would spend a long time hunting to try to get the trust of that particular buyer and be advising them on what's happening in the market, what ships are available. We would take a kind of their purchase inquiry and get a feel for what type of ship do they want, what type of dimensions are they looking for, what type of vessel do they like. Do they want a Japanese built? Do they want a Korean? Do they want a European built? What type of engines do they like? Do they prefer to use? What type of background, the age, all those sort of factors play into a decision that a ship owner and a buyer will make. And it's hugely time consuming, and it's no reward, no win, no reward. Essentially, you're not paid a retainer. You are very much just. It can take years to advise and guide people on making investments in buying vessels, and you're talking about multi-million dollar transactions. So you can't push somebody or try and encourage someone to buy a ship if you know or you think that perhaps the market is going to drop off in the next 6 months, because that person can, and quite literally can and does, go bankrupt. It happens all the time. So you've got to be really you're a bit torn between, obviously, for your own benefit and your own kind of development, you want to do deals and make as many sort of purchases and sales as possible, but ultimately you have your client's interest at heart first. So you want to try and make sure you make the best decision for them. And maybe it's you take a longer play and you put a spin on how things can work out. And that's how the good brokers kind of can make many deals in good markets and bad markets, essentially. So the sale and purchase broker will earn a commission on the sale of the ship or the purchase of the ship. It's usually around 1%. And often, from memory, the buyer pays the commission. So usually you would have a is it buyer? It might be seller. Apologies if I'm wrong. You can correct me on that. It might actually be the seller. I apologize. But yeah, the broker will there'll be two brokers involved normally. Broker on the seller's behalf who's selling the ship, and also a broker on the buyer's behalf. So they will each get a commission. Okay, so the other side of shipbroking is chartering. So they're the people that actually help people find the cargoes for the vessels, and I've got onto this in enough detail. But they will be speaking day in, day out, as I said, monitoring the cargo flows and the charter rates, essentially. The final of the three pillars, we've covered ship owning and ship management, shipbroking, which we've looked at as different forms, but mainly sell and purchase or chartering. The last one is the actual cargo kind of user and the person that's moving the cargo from A to B, and that is what we refer to as the charterer. They could also be called commodity traders. You might even just refer to them as oil majors that transport oil around the world. But effectively, those oil majors will either own their own vessels and charter them around themselves, or more often the case, perhaps they might charter vessels from any of the big very large tanker ship owners or tanker fleets, and they will use those vessels for a period of time. So yeah, you'll know that the big businesses, so BP, Shell, Glencore, Exxon, those type of companies, Vitol, Trafigura, really a whole variety of really interesting businesses within the chartering space and the commodity trading space. So some of the solutions that are more technology focused in this area, we do touch upon, and definitely there are really interesting companies out there like Voltexa, Kepler, Winwood, and they look at, and also the Signal Group, a whole range, and I'll give you some examples later in more depth. But they would look more at the energy market, the oil and gas, what's happening with the prices of those commodities, like I mentioned. So basically, a trader can be more informed about what the market, what's happening. So they're the three verticals that I kind of think make up the commercial shipping space. Obviously, you've got the other areas to do with the actual ports themselves, the vessels going in and out of port, and that can kind of be classed perhaps as port agency, port services businesses. There's a lot of technology surrounding that area, which we also dive into in a future lesson. But for now, I really think that the majority of the digital shipping providers are targeted on those three pillars.